So I'm going to dive straight in and just give context about community planning. But before we do that, I actually just want to give a huge round of applause to Des for running that check. Thank you, Des. And really, community planning is not just about being organized, but it's actually about having clarity. And so before we even dive into like the nuts and bolts and hacks of actually great planning, I'd love to ask you all, like, what are the benefits of planning? If someone would like to actually unmute and just share like a benefit of planning, of being organized, actually something that is a reason as to why you would create a plan or systems in your role, I would love to hear it.
I'm happy to jump in, Paz. It's Fee. Sorry, I'll turn on my video. I was eating. I think the benefit of planning, particularly when it comes to community, is well, from my experience anyway, it's very easy to get lost in the big picture of the strategy or what it could look like or how it could shape up, and kind of get stuck in that higher level. And by planning, you kind of follow a sequence of steps that allows you to naturally dive in a little bit deeper and get to the final end, which is, here are my current initiatives and goals, and here is how I'm going to go about achieving them. So that's how it's been for me anyway.
Perfect. Love it, Fee. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it really is that like articulation of like, this is the big picture and then this is the plan to get there. So thank you. Perfect. I'm just going to continue off the back of that, because really it's so easy as community builders to think like, oh, maybe this is the priority, or that's the priority, or actually our directors say it's over here, but the members want something that's this and it's over there. So really to get clear on what the priorities are one of the biggest things. And then the plan, it really just helps you get there. And so some of the other benefits of creating a plan is it actually helps with decision making. You know that this is the plan, so that decision over there is bringing me that way. So sorry, that's actually not on my agenda. It helps you set boundaries and know what you can and can't do, because you've mapped out exactly what capacity you have for delivery and execution over the year. And also it helps you actually just like identify goals and reduce stress and overwhelm. And Erica, I love this comment, you know, it's easier to plan first and adapt as we go. 100%, you know, just because we make a plan doesn't mean it has to be perfect to the T. The plan can change and morph, and it will be flexible and a living, breathing organism, because of course things do change and we need to be adaptive. And in the words of Benjamin Franklin, for every minute spent organizing, an hour is earned. You know, this is really, really powerful. Time is one of our most important assets. And so actually taking time to be planning and reflecting actually helps us be more efficient and saves us time in the long run. And so really the outcome of today, like I would really love for everyone to walk away from this feeling really empowered and equipped to be more organized in your professional role, so you can actually experience all of those benefits. So I've narrowed effective community planning down to 3 things, which was quite difficult, and I would love to share them with you and really unpack each of these. So for effective community planning, it actually involves really quality habits, processes, and tools. And so we're going to break these down one by one, and I hope that this is really fruitful topics and content for you to actually digest and then go away and take this into your own discussions with other people as well after this. So habits is really in 4 key areas, and I'll break each of these 4 areas down as well. So really habits is all about having a habit audit, which I'll walk you through a framework. It's about really building in time to reflect, and also time blocking, which actually allows us to be continuously held accountable to doing the thing that we know we're meant to do, but we always forget to do it because the meeting pops in and we'll go to that anyway. So really effective time blocking helps us when things get tough and there's day-to-day and week-to-week priorities that come across. And also feedback. You'll know if you've been through any of our cohorts or through previous meetups, but we really believe that feedback is a gift, and I really want to instill that in you as well. So let's break this down, because really habits, it's what you do every day that really builds into monumental impact and outcomes. So habit audit, this is actually inspired by David Spinks. He's the founder of CMX and was the head of the VP of community at Bevy. He's based in New York. And really his approach for a habit audit, which I wanted to share with you today, was really looking at your habits. So anything that you do, both in your professional life and in your personal life, whether it's watching TV, going for a run, maybe you check your phone in the morning, or what time you eat every day, and just look at your habits and run it through this audit. Obviously, you don't need to do this every day, but I like to do it once a year. And I go, okay, is this, how much joy is this bringing me? How does this impact my health? And how does this impact my goals? At the end of last year, I was watching a lot of Gossip Girl, just binge watching all of the series with friends. And, it brings me joy, but it wasn't that great for my health or my goals. So I'm just more aware of how much I do that habit. And then looking at meditation, I'm a Vedic meditator and I meditate every morning for 20 minutes. And it does bring me joy. It's great for my health and it helps me impact my goals. So I really look at, okay, how can I bring more of this into my life? And we'll share these slides with you afterwards so that you'll actually be able to have this framework and use it as your own. Yeah, thanks for crediting the article. Thanks, Des. So reflection, really in building a habit of continuously reflecting is a really great way to understand what has worked well in the past. Like, did you set a plan? How did that go? And really understanding how you can continuously improve. So these are 4 questions that I like to use for reflection, but there are exhaustive lists of reflection questions online. So you're welcome to explore as well. And so really thinking about what worked well, what didn't work so well. What do you want to keep doing and what do you want to stop doing? And really reflection can be built into time-bound programs. So at the end of every program, you could do a reflection. At the end of every event, you could do a reflection. At the end of every quarter, people like to do yearly reflections in December of the whole year. So really just think about when you would build and use this habit and how that would really impact on planning. Then time blocking, and I'll show you actual examples of how I time block throughout this. But really time blocking is the process of dedicating certain hours in your day, week, year, month, and really actually outlining exactly what that time is for. And so unpacking, what are the best times to do certain tasks. So if you're thinking about planning, for me, I like to plan every Monday morning, or the first 10 minutes or the last 10 minutes of the day, planning the next day. And then you could also look at habits that are perhaps every Friday of the week, you plan the next week ahead, or perhaps every first week of a quarter, you plan for the next quarter. And so it's really understanding that these times are in your calendar, they're non-negotiable, and you block them out and they're sacred for you. For me, I block out Mondays and Fridays as no meetings, no commitments. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rules, but actually having a full dedicated day allows me to get into the deep flow and thinking, to actually just do deep work, but then also plan effectively as well. And community planning, for it to be really effective and successful, you need to take into account feedback. And feedback will help you not only grow in your own role, so feedback from your team, how are things going? How's this plan looking for you? How are you showing up? Is it too much? Do we need to dial it down, dial it up? And really understanding how you can either improve in your own role or you improve the plan itself. And then we all know how important it is to actually gather feedback from your members. The community, they are why we are here. They are why we exist in the community. Without the members, it wouldn't be a community at all. It'd be a very lonely party for one, which usually is how communities start. So obviously we need to start somewhere. But really, I want this to be the reminder that you need of how can you build in time and habits to continuously ask for feedback, not just in one survey a year to get a feedback on the whole picture, but how can you build in slight or minimal to really big touch points that continuously ask for feedback. So examples of what that could look like is having a 5-star rating at the end of a meetup, so it's easy for people to just rate. And then perhaps at the end of every 6 months, you go out and you do 10 interviews with members and you just get their feedback. You're like, how's the community been going for you? And then you can build this into your plan. So just to reiterate, the 4 areas in great habits is doing a habit audit and then really reflecting and then time blocking to make sure that you're actually doing the thing and then continuously asking for feedback. The second element of quality and effective community planning are processes. So really there are 3 key processes that I personally go through. And at the start of a year, I build out an annual community calendar. And then I go through a step of bringing that calendar to life by actually calendarizing, if that's a word, it's a word now, but putting things into my actual calendar. And then building out processes for every specific delivery, whether it's like an event or a newsletter, and it has exact steps so I understand, okay, this is the process, the plan's there. So when I'm actually executing something, I'm not thinking about, oh, what were the steps that I needed to take to do it? I think, oh, these are the steps that I take to write a newsletter, and how can I actually improve this process? So having great processes allows you to not only train other people really easily, because here's the process that we do, but it allows you to continuously improve them because your brain is freed up from space of thinking of like, oh, what was the process, as opposed to how can I improve it? So let's break each of these 3 areas down. In the newsletter this morning, we shared a free annual community and content calendar. This is a snapshot of what it looks like. I actually want to share my screen onto the calendar and allow you to get an idea of a living and breathing example of how we do our planning, and you are more than welcome to use the template yourself if you'd like to plan out elements in your own community. But really the purpose of having a annual calendar really allows you to get clear on what are the things that you are delivering for the year. And this can seem really overwhelming and a step too far. So I totally understand if this is not your vibe. But for me, it's really helpful to understand, okay, great, these are the member events. They happen fortnightly, or for us, our meetups happen on the first Wednesday or Friday of every month. So right away, I know that exactly there's going to be a meetup in these areas. You can do the same for public events. You can do the same for accelerator programs of actually weeks dedicated to actual outcomes that you'd like to achieve, and then specific events that you're running each week. Or lastly, for content. And, you know, people have social media calendars, and really this is a holistic way to build in the content that is relevant to your community. So you might have like a partner newsletter in your community, or you might have a founder newsletter or a member EDM. And so it's really looking at, okay, well, they go in different weeks, so we know that we're not putting everything in the same week on the same day, which will result in perhaps poor quality output. So this is one way to actually bring your planning to life, and we'll share the link for this as well. So you have all of this, so you can just make a copy of this template and make it your own and update the details. And really the community plan, the purpose is to just understand when you're delivering things and when you're not delivering things. It is so important for people like us in these community roles to actually block out 1 or 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks a year where we are not delivering anything. And so we really have that time to plan and reflect. For us, we block out 6 weeks throughout the year where we don't deliver meetups, public events, or newsletters. And so, you know, it'll look very different for everyone depending on your role and obviously your deliverables. But even if it's certain days, you know, or hours where you're not delivering, I think that's really important. And then to actually bring that calendar to life, because I've definitely gone down the track where I've made the calendar in January and then I've forgotten about it in March and I'm doing completely different things and I have no idea where that spreadsheet is. So to make sure that doesn't happen and to set you up for success, really a step after actually building out a plan is to put it in your calendar. So this is an example of our business calendar. I wish my own personal calendar was this clear, but it's not. But you can see that there's regular time blocks in this calendar. So no meetings on Mondays and Fridays. The last Thursday of every month, we write the newsletter and it goes out on the first day of every month as scheduled. You can put in daylight savings or public holidays, and you can see on the first Monday of each week, it's the themes of what's running. So whether it's recruitment for particular programs or interviews, or whether you need a plan or reflect or do post program interviews, I know that that's happening during that week. So it actually saves me from going into those spreadsheets and plans to check exactly what's happening. It's in my calendar and I know. In terms of time, it probably takes about 1 to 2 hours with a really beautiful cup of tea and some music to calendarize everything. So I think it's very realistic if you do it once every 6 months, because everything's reoccurring. Okay, process building. The reason for having really great processes is to actually allow you to continuously improve them. So a way that I process build, I use Asana, and for each particular element that we're delivering in that calendar, a compulsory cup of tea. It's so good, Steph. Thank you for that. We really look at how do we build out processes. So for example, I use Asana to build out the process for our newsletter. So I know it goes out on the first day of every month. And so I'll build out in Asana on the left here, March, April, May, all of the editions. And then when you expand each month, it'll have the exact structure and the steps to follow. So basically this saves me the time of trying to remember what to do and eliminates elements of forgetting tasks, whether it's to like add those subscribers from the past event that you had because you just forgot to do it. And then this allows us to really upskill other people in the team, or if you're bringing on new members or guest editors, you go, hey, this is the process. Let me know if you have any questions. So it saves you from actually writing it out and emailing it to lots of different people. It's all in one place. And you could put this in Google Docs or in Todoist or wherever it seems fit. Another example of process building is with events. So a lot of people have like event run sheets. We like to do event checklists as well. So for every meetup, we would have a particular heading, and then we'd expand that and would have the exact steps, so that every time the meetup rolls around, you're like, okay, great, I go to Asana, awesome. And it really just saves a lot of energy, to be honest, and makes everything really seamless and efficient. Okay, this is the last element of community planning, and this is tech tools. And so, as no surprise, I use Google Calendars, Google Sheets, and Google Docs, Asana for big process building, and then I use Todoist to actually put that into like daily tasks of things that I need to do. And then Superhuman, which is actually something that gamifies your inbox, which makes you get through your emails 10 times faster, and it helps me stay on track of my calendar. So we'll link all of these tools in the follow-up email after this, but this is just a small snapshot, and there are definitely a lot more that you can use as well. Okay, the last thing I wanted to leave you with is actually a quote by the famous Unknown, which is spelled incorrectly. And really this is to remind you that the habit of being organized or of really getting on top of planning is actually to start with awareness of what doesn't work. I know I've just given you a lot of examples and insights into how we undertake community planning, which can feel really overwhelming if all you know is that there's a public event in a month and that's it. You have to start somewhere, and wherever you are is exactly where you need to be right now. So don't feel overwhelmed that you're behind and you're not organized and you're not planning, because perhaps this process wouldn't work for you. So find the things that work for you best, that work for your team, and that work for your community, because no one knows that better than you.